What's with animated shows and the ability to predict the future? Well, specifically, Matt Groening shows. The Simpsons spent years predicting events like the Disney and Fox merger, Donald Trump being elected president, and even showcased Lady Gaga in a very similar performance to her Super Bowl halftime show 5 years before it actually took place. And now today, we will look at another Groening show, the cult hit Futurama. Set in the 31st century, the show has made some bold predictions about our future on Earth. Some of the predictions were spot on, while others not so much. So let's hop aboard the Planet Express and decipher their factual predictions from ones that were way off. Striking visuals helped Futurama establish its place in the 31st century, and one of the main visuals we love seeing in New York is the tube transport system. Who needs to ride on a dirty subway when the TTS can fly you around in a human-sized version of our drive-through banking technology? The giant tubes weave around the city like a tangled mess, providing fun transitions and great gags. But could we ever travel at high speeds like this? Well, thanks to Elon Musk, this future is closer to reality than we realized. While the tubes themselves are not clear and do not harness single riders in them, the Hyperloop 1 will be a reality way sooner than the 31st century. The high-speed tubes will travel upwards of 650 miles per hour and can transport a person from Los Angeles to Las Vegas in just 30 minutes. There are a lot of developments and hurdles to get over, but tube technology is definitely going to be in our future one day. If Futurama showed us anything, it's that robots have feelings too. Along with Bender, we met a lot of other robots on the show, including the dramatic robot actor named Calculon. One of Calculon's most dramatic stories could have been written off as a funny piece of pop culture dialogue. But in early 2019, the story was seemingly coming true. On the show, Calculon talks about a traumatic time when he was run down by a robotic car, and even states the year was 2019. Well, in the real 2019, an automated Tesla car was driving and hit a robot standing on the side of the road. The robot was supposed to be a display model for the upcoming CES show, but clearly plans were changed after the hit and run by the robot Tesla. While the car and robot attack was on point enough, the fact that Calculon also mentions the year 2019 is just uncanny. Other Fox animated shows like Family Guy and The Simpsons often fill their dialogue and visuals with pop culture references. But the tactic was avoided for a majority of Futurama's early seasons. When a reference was placed in the show, the animators made sure it counted or was buried deep in the background. One of these references was a funny nod, but kind of missed the mark on a future prediction. In the episode The Lesser of Two Evils, Fry, Bender, and Leela visit Pastorama, a theme park dedicated to the world of New York City around the year 2000. In the amusement park, the characters walk past a movie theater marquee with a new Star Wars movie entitled Star Wars 9: YODA'S Bar Mitzvah. Even though the title's hilarious, it's a far cry from The Rise of Skywalker. Interestingly, the episode was released in the year 2000 and did predict the eventual release of a 9th Star Wars film, one which will supposedly end the Skywalker saga forever. Sticking with the world of Hollywood remakes, the Season 2 episode A Trip to the Movies features characters going to the local movie theater, and a whole other marquee with fake movie titles on it. One of the titles that stands out is the film Shaft on Africon 9. Clearly, the title is supposed to represent a Shaft in space movie, and is a ripoff on all the Shaft films along with the year 2000 remake starring Samuel L. Jackson. While the title is definitely wrong, and there will be no space-traveling exploits, Samuel L. Jackson is returning to the role 19 years later in the film with the same title, Shaft. Maybe if this action movie is a big success, we'll get some more sequels down the line, like Shaft in Space, or Futurama's own prediction of Shaft on Africon 9. Back in 1999, Futurama writers and animators pretty much had to guess the future of tech evolution. This was 8 years before the first iPhone was even released. While we are years away from some technology on the show, the episode Ahead in the Polls accurately predicted one of today's top pieces of technology, drone cameras. In a spoof of C-SPAN, the digital channel C-SPAN 9 features floating drone cameras for a political debate. While the cameras are definitely more bulky than modern designs, the future idea was there. Drone cameras have changed the way television shows and movies are made, and overhead footage can be captured like never before. To put the prediction in perspective, we didn't have regular programming broadcast in HD back in 1999, and the show was able to predict the future of drone filmmaking. Now we'll just have to see if their predictions of preserving people's heads in jars will come true as well. You would imagine there were a lot of law changes from the year 2000 to the year 3000, but in the universe of Futurama, it seems like marijuana and hemp are two things still banned from society. In the same episode where the show was able to predict drones in the future, they clearly missed the mark on this political issue. Amy goes up to a booth where a man tries to present his case, but is clearly under the influence under some of the hemp he wants legalized. And quick side note, did you notice the sign says "of" twice? It's okay, we missed it the first time too. Anyway, in recent years, multiple states have fully legalized marijuana for both recreational and medical use. The political topic is slowly becoming a non-factor, and by the year 3000, we imagine purchasing various forms of the drug will not be much different than buying a case of beer. It didn't take long for Futurama to predict the future. We already saw how the first episode introduced the tube transportation technology, and episode 2 of the show got another prediction right on the money. In the episode The Series Has Landed, Amy and Bender are at an arcade when we get a visual gag of some of the games. Along with traditional skee-ball, there's virtual skee-ball and virtual skee-ball. The second game is almost an exact replica of today's virtual reality trend. Whether it's an Oculus set in your living room or a new game at the mall or amusement park, people all over the world are putting on headsets and swinging wildly around to whatever virtual reality vision they're seeing. The animation and headset design are pretty much spot on here, along with some of the more mundane VR games available like skee-ball. The show went on to feature many other versions of virtual reality, but none were more realistic to our times like the skee-ball version. The episode Bend Her features a look at the future of the Olympics, specifically in the year 3004. While a number of traditional events remain, the show definitely puts a new twist on the worldwide competition. One of the featured events at the Games is the Limbo event, which is basically a reverse of the Olympic hurdles. The idea is absurd and funny, but will probably never debut at the Olympics. The real-life Olympics is definitely open to making changes, though. At the 2020 Games, some of the newest events include 3-on-3 half-court basketball, skateboarding, and BMX park. In the past Olympic Games, we couldn't imagine seeing any of these sports actually being played on the world stage. The Olympics are definitely diversifying, but the Limbo probably won't be taken seriously enough to make it into the Olympic Games, like ever. Ever drive by a pizza restaurant and wish you could extend your nose to smell the delicious combination of crust, cheese, and sauce? Well, that's the premise behind Futurama's Smelloscope, an invention used to actually smell other planets. While we may not be smelling the landscape of Mars anytime soon, we did get the next best thing with an invention known as the Nasal Ranger. The Nasal Ranger looks extremely similar to the Smelloscope, but on a smaller scale. And this isn't some novelty toy either. The Nasal Ranger is promoted to use for scientific studies, including the sense of various plants, odor pollutions, and other areas where scents may be strong. Truthfully, we would probably just keep pointing the device towards the bakery down the street, but that's our prerogative. Still, it's pretty funny that an invention created just for a gag turns out to be a real tool used by actual scientists. You'd think any type of animal racing in the year 3000 would be a thing of the past, but this is not the case in the episode The Luck of Fryish. In the episode, the Planet Express crew heads to the fictional Flushing Downs racetrack to bet on horses, watch them race, and apparently eat them when the concessions menu is revealed to be a majority of items with forms of horse meat. The Flushing Downs track is newly created in the Queens, New York setting of the show, but the reality is that we don't see horse tracks expanding anytime soon. While the Kentucky Derby remains a popular event in tradition, don't expect to go to a real Flushing Downs. If anything, more horse tracks will only close down, as revenues shorten and animal rights issues get brought to the forefront of the industry. The trend has already begun with greyhound racing tracks, and will likely bleed into the horse racing industry. It's pretty silly to think that Planet Earth hosts competition titled Miss Universe when we don't give consideration to any other planets out there. Well, at least Futurama recognizes this when their own version of Miss Universe showcases a wide range of alien species competing for the title. The Season 2 episode, The Lesser of Two Evils, aired in the year 2000, and features a beauty pageant where Leela gets crowned Miss Universe. Unfortunately for her, the host and judge Zap Brannigan read the wrong name, and MITZVAH 4 was declared the winner, as Leela got stripped of her crown. Flash forward to the 2015 Miss Universe hosted by Steve Harvey, and the exact same thing happened. Harvey announced Miss Columbia as the winner, watched her get crowned, and then had to announce he said the wrong name as the title of Miss Universe was transferred over to the rightful winner, Miss Philippines. The Futurama episode got a ton of YouTube hits in the days following the Steve Harvey incident. Any scenes taking place on the streets of the futuristic New York are fascinating to watch because of how many details are put into the background. Episodes like A Fishful of Dollars and Xmas Story have both featured one New York City department store that sounds pretty familiar. In the 31st century, the store Alien Overload and Taylor is a clear parody of New York City's classic department store Lord & Taylor. The only problem with the Alien version appearing in the city? In early 2019, New York City's real Lord & Taylor closed their doors for good. The landmark closing marked huge changes in the world of retail and showcased how our future is rapidly shifting to online shopping and shipping products. So 1,000 years from now, any type of department store will probably be a rare relic of the past. While the gag was fun, even a few years from now, younger viewers probably won't get the reference. When the characters on Futurama get their news, they turn to one source, Channel Square Root 2 News. The show within a show has featured numerous highlights, funny moments, and great takes on our modern news era, including some wacky sports coverage. In the sports segment, one of the sports they focus on is Octopus wrestling. The quick clip seems absurd, but was based off true events. Back in the 1950s and 60s, divers would compete in Octopus wrestling championships, going deep into the water trying to snag the biggest octopus they could using just their bodies. So will the sport come back in the future? We highly doubt it, considering the whole nature of the sport and the danger it creates. If there's anything in the future related to octopus wrestling, it would be in some form of virtual technology, not an actual octopus. In the 8th episode of the first season of Futurama, a lot of fans probably had no clue what Professor Farnsworth was talking about when he mentioned the crew making a delivery to Ebola 9, a virus planet. Well, years later, the joke made a lot of sense when the world was dealing with a massive Ebola outbreak. As Ebola spread through multiple countries, patients who contracted the disease were pretty much put on their own planets, not allowed any outside contact, and forced to remain under heavy quarantine until the virus could be stopped. The Ebola 9 planet clearly showcased the potential future for any crazy and deadly virus outbreaks. Even though the outbreak took place in 2013 and 14, hospitals and doctors still do checks on patients to ensure they have not been exposed to the deadly and contagious disease. Futurama showcased a huge future filled with robots. Robots are used for all types of tasks on the show, and we're getting close to similar technology including robot vacuums, robot delivery service, and robot cars. If there's one thing the show got wrong about the future of robots, it's how they will be used for some entertainment purposes. Take for example the Radio City Music Hall robot Rockettes. The dancing holiday show is replaced with a complete lineup of robots for the episode The Lesser of Two Evils. But this definitely isn't the future we see in entertainment. What we do see a future in performances is through holograms. Starting with singers like Tupac, hologram performances are the most realistic way to display a performer on stage. The current Radio City Music Hall even implements the tech, as seen when a hologram Jason Aldean sang with a live Kelly Clarkson in their venue. Out of all the future movies and television shows showcased on Futurama, there was one example that was pretty spot on. When the characters meet up with the preserved head of Pamela Anderson, the history of her time between the year 2000 and 3000 is quickly filled in. We learn she starred in an official Baywatch movie. The film was made in all slow motion, and Anderson won an Oscar for her role. The prediction was made years before 2017's Baywatch movie, but was pretty close and accurate. Anderson only has a cameo in the film, but the majority of her scene is in slow motion. And of course, she didn't win any Oscars for her role, but the film did get nominated for multiple Golden Raspberries, celebrating the worst in film. In a world of remakes and sequels, predicting an official Baywatch movie probably isn't too hard, but the extra details they added were impressive. Bender has said some pretty crazy stuff over the years, and we could sit here and quote him all day. But there's one quote we're going to focus on specifically. In the episode The Sting, Fry is presumed dead, but Bender questions if he's really not passed already, and references how Julia Roberts was buried alive. Yep, Futurama took a stab, or should we say shovel, and predicted that one of Hollywood's most beloved stars actually passed away by getting buried alive. Of course, this hasn't been proven true, yet, and feels extremely unlikely. Plus, no one wants to see that happen anyway. Roberts is still alive and kicking. She recently starred in the Amazon Prime series Homecoming, and we are all still waiting for the sequel to Pretty Woman. Perhaps Pretty Middle-Aged Woman? Just throwing that out there. Even aliens enjoy sitting down and enjoying a good TV show every now and then. We see this in a classic scene with the alien Lur as he watches Friends with his loved one. The episode aired in 2002, and the alien couple plans on sitting and binging Friends episodes years before the show was even off the air. Flash forward to modern times, and so many of us can relate to Lur. Friends is one of the top streamed shows on Netflix and will anchor the new Warner Bros. Streaming service when it launches. The kicker comes when the Planet Express crew arrives to deliver a package to Lur. Lur's line about not worrying about missing a Joey-centric episode couldn't ring more true, especially for the one where Joey speaks French. Yikes, go ahead and watch it again. Tell us you don't agree. New York City still goes through a lot of the same rodent problems, including rats and pigeons. Instead of using some type of modern invention to help with the cause, the city unleashed owls, because they are known for eating rats and would scare the pigeons right on out of there. The only problem now? The whole city's scattered with owls. Menacing and predatory owls. So will owls invade New York City in the future? Nope. Because back in the late 1980s and early 90s, New York City already tried the whole owl thing. They set up multiple owl nests around the city and in parks. The nests were destroyed in a variety of different ways, and the owl population didn't increase at all. Meanwhile, rats and pigeons continue to raise havoc in the streets, alleys, rooftops, and anywhere they can get a grasp on. The problem is probably even too big for owls to handle at this point. One of the more unique episodes of Futurama is Saturday Morning Fun Pit. The episode is essentially a series of fake television cartoons airing on TV in the 31st century. The one we're going to focus on today is Bendy Boo Meets the Spooky Kabuki. The cartoon short is a clear parody of Scooby-Doo and features a number of celebrity guest appearances including Larry Bird, the Harlem Globetrotters, and Star Trek alum George Takei. Guest stars were nothing new on classic episodes of Scooby-Doo, but the amount of them was heavily increased for the parody. Fast forward 6 years after the original airing, and we are getting the new Scooby-Doo show entitled Scooby-Doo and Guess Who? The whole show's premise is about having guest actors including Mark Hamill, basketball star Chris Paul, Ricky Gervais, and Batman. The format and style feels very similar to Futurama's take on the show, making you wonder if the Scooby creators were inspired. So, yeah, Futurama was a little hit or miss at predicting the future, but there were a lot of things they nailed on the head. Is there anything we missed? Anything that may come true within the next few years or so? Let us know in the comments, and tell us your favorite Futurama episodes. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Screen Rant, and stay up to date with all our latest content. Thanks for watching.